use something called kazon friti, and this is another typical kind of antipasto merenda that comes from this region. And before I get started on the dough, because I have to make a dough for this, I've got some onions cooking down in this back pan. And now I want to add some spinach. So here's 2 pounds of spinach that we cooked very quickly, and I just want to flavor that with the onions. We squeezed out the water and chopped it up very fine. And I'm going to add some raisins with this. So you want about 2/3 of a cup of raisins that you've soaked in water for about 15 minutes or so. So that goes in. And a little bit of salt. So there's a little salt. And that's all there is to the filling. And we're going to let that go now, because this we need to cook ahead of time. We don't want to put it hot into our filling. All right, the kazon friti. Let me get that going for you. So we're going to do this in a food processor. This is very quick. You want to start out with 2 eggs. So there's 1, 2, and you know the word kazon friti is very similar to a dialect word for a calzone, because this is really like a mini little calzone. And here we have 1/2 cup of milk. We're going to put our top on and just whirl that up. Get that going. And you want about, 2 1/4 cups of flour. I don't know if the egg will take all of this, so I'm just going to have to gauge it and see. So don't add all the flour at one time, but I'll put most of it in, because we want a dough now that we need to rest for about 30 minutes or so. So when you make a dough like this, you can always correct the ingredients, and I know that that's just too soupy, so we need to add more flour. So that's almost the total amount. Add on again. When this starts to go around the blade, you know that you have got a dough. Let's do that again. And there it goes. So once it goes around the blade, and it's in a ball, and we're still going to have to add just a little bit more. I'm going to go right through the feed tube on that one. Then you can take it out and knead it. Okay, I'm going to put this off to the side now, because I do have a rested one for you. You want to let that rest for about 30 minutes or so. And here's the rested dough. So I'm going to take that out. We want to let the gluten in this dough relax a bit. There's my rested dough. So what do we do with this? Well, this we need to roll. So you want to cut it up into pieces. Work with small pieces at a time. And I'll show you how this goes. You want to have some oil ready, some vegetable oil. And take your dough and you roll it out, not too thin, but you want to make sure that it's an even thickness. And you see how nicely this rolls, because it has rested a while. We're going to cut this dough with a circle cutter. You can use a 3-inch cookie cutter. You could make it smaller if you want. I'm going to get a little flour now, because I don't want that to stick. But just enough to keep the dough from sticking. And we're going to put that wonderful mixture that we just made, the spinach mixture, in this dough. So once you have it rolled out, then you get a cookie cutter, and you can cut circles. I like to use a 3-inch cookie cutter, so I'll make a couple of them for you. There's 2. And then here's that filling, which is already cooled down. You don't want to put that filling in hot. You take just a little bit of it, put it right in the center of each one, just like that. This is really good for you, because it's got lots of good ingredients. And fold over the edges, you see? Fold it over just like that. Make sure that you pinch those edges well, because you don't want that filling to fall out when you're putting this in oil. So pinch those edges well. You can make these up ahead of time, but you'd have to reheat them. And then they're ready to go into some oil. So here we have our vegetable oil, and you want to have that at 375 degrees. You want to be able to make sure that those cook in plenty of time. And I'm going to test that oil first because I'm not so sure that that's at 375 degrees. So either use a thermometer or take a little piece of dough and put it in. It's probably going to take about 30 seconds to do because you know I've made these before. So get the oil at 375 degrees, and this particular dough has no leavening in it whatsoever. So it's starting to brown up, and I have confidence that this is going to work. So now I'm going to put in, about 3 or 4 of these. And when you're working with hot oil, you be very careful. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And when those are nice and brown, I'm going to take them out, and you and I are going to be ready to enjoy borlenghi and kazoni fritti.